Hey folks, Alex with Software Retrofit Pros. We're here in the Valley today. We're talking about software retrofitting an 18-unit building. It's actually 2 buildings, and it's going to take probably 4 frames. So if you want to learn more about our site inspection process and what we cover, stay tuned. Well folks, we're in the rear of the building, and the first thing that we have to evaluate is what are the areas of the building that we have to retrofit, right? So let's take a look at this building here. If you draw your attention to this side wall here, like think about this as a geometric plane, right? We got one angle this way and one plane that way. There's a small little cantilever out, this little section here, it's cantilevered out. There's a post right there, right? So this direction, it has to be retrofitted. And it's gonna definitely have to be retrofitted in this plane, in this direction. On this section, we're gonna put Simpson strong walls. We'll probably put them side to side and back to back, and we'll be able to have enough strength, like if this wall right here was solid, within only a 6-foot footprint, so that the cars can park and there's no problem. So that's one. We totally use this technique in a few different jobs, and it works really good for conserving the parking and also getting a nice strong connection to the back of the building. All right, so let's move on a little more. Let's go see what else we found. In order for the retrofits to work, you got to make sure that you're attaching the new stuff to the existing stuff, but the existing stuff can't be rotted out. So when I see damage like this, you see this crack, you see the piece of stucco missing there, see this continuous crack, piece of stucco missing. When you see stuff like that, very likely there's some water damage there. So during our pre-design process, we actually open up the stucco. This is before we do the plans. We open up the stucco, we do a little destructive investigation, break the stucco out, and expose the areas to make sure that we understand what the condition of the existing wood is. This also helps in putting together a pricing package for the construction that is a lot more accurate. In other words, we want to try and minimize how many surprises we have later on as we're doing construction. We want to make sure that we verify the dimensions of the lumber, the directions of the lumber, and also the condition of the existing lumber, right? So let's go to the other part of the building and see what we got going on over there. We are in the valley. It's different, right? You know, doctor checks you out, does a little tapping to see what's going on in your insides. Well, you know, think of me as your building doctor, right? So, a little hollow, pretty solid, right? My suspicion is that this is a cripple wall, okay, that is probably pretty hammered. And this is another wood member. And the idea is that these 2 sections lock in, and they're definitely structural. So we definitely have to see what kind of condition they are as we're taking the design into consideration. So we have to consider this when we're putting together the design, the structural design. So in this case, we're gonna open up this section here. We're gonna open up part of this cripple wall. This is solid cinder block. We're definitely gonna look at this connection here. There's been a lot of action here over the years. You can see that there's stucco patching, and looks like people have been throwing stuff up there like whipped cream. We're definitely gonna peel this back and see these connections. Think about the perimeter connections of a building, a box. The outside, all the outside walls, they have to be in good shape, otherwise the box will crush. So along this line right here, there's a lot of issues. Let's check that out. So when you're doing a site inspection, you gotta get close, like this close. Up here, you got a continuous crack along the entire freaking thing. It's very likely that water's gotten in there and that rim is in bad shape. That rim is a really important member, structural member. So we're gonna open up a big section of this cantilever area. We're gonna open up a big section of this cantilever area. We wanna check 2 things. What the condition of the rim is, what the condition of these joists that are cantilevering over. Remember, if these joists are not held together tight, the floor system will act like this, like piano keys. It'll just move. When it starts having this motion, as the engineer said, if that happens, it's a meltdown, and it truly is. So the next thing that we're gonna open up is this section here. This is probably the centerpiece of the two sections. We're gonna put a 3-column moment frame, special moment frame. We're gonna go with a Simpson frame. It's gonna be badass. So we're gonna open this up right here. This is an I-beam, and the reason we know that is because a chunk of stucco on the other side blew out, so we can see it. But we wanna see where the connections are of the I-beam to I-beam, because I doubt it's continuous for 60 feet. So we're gonna open this up, and we're gonna do a little deep drilling. Remember, we gotta get in close. So I'm gonna cut out a significant section of this area here, of the concrete, so we can verify the size of the existing pad. So we're gonna put in a double bay special moment frame. 1 column is gonna be there on that side of the red car, 1 column here, and 1 column over by this black car. Connected by a nice, big, beefy top beam. It's gonna be amazing. But we have to verify what the footing conditions are so that we can design an appropriate tie beam or grade beam, whatever we end up needing for this project. Understand this, if we were to only do 1 bay, the steel would be tremendously enormous, and the footprint of the contact would be smaller. If you were to use a cantilever here, you'd probably put 2 or 3 cantilevers along this line, but we don't think that that's the best solution for this building, because if we were to put a moment frame in, you have way more contact. We would have, let's say, 16 feet on this side and 16 feet on that side. It's roughly 32 feet of contact with the building. And you want that, so it almost ends up being a third of the entire span if we did the 2 bays. So we think that it's much better to use a thinner steel, 2 bays, than a thicker steel, 1 single bay. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. It's like basically, if you were falling off the cliff, it's the difference between somebody holding on to your pinky and somebody holding on to your entire torso. The more contact the steel has with the structure, with the wood structure, the more space I have to add more lumber to the building so that we can get a good transfer of force, right? The earthquake is gonna generate all this seismic force, kinetic energy into the building, and we wanna transfer it back into the moment frame, okay? That is the talent, guys. Anybody, any engineer in California can design the thickness of these columns. That's easy. Figuring out how to prepare the building for the new columns and the new moment frames, that, my friends, is where we shine. Now that you know how a special moment frame works, let's go to the other side of the building and see what we're gonna do there. We're at the front of the building now, and I want to share with you one of the factors that sometimes pushes up the construction price, and it's dealing with infrastructure. This happens to be a very important cripple wall. So this is concrete, cinder block, and this is hollow, like on the other side of the building. If you notice, I don't know if the mic caught that, but this is definitely hollow. Now, this has to be plywooded. It has to be sheathed. You gotta put in some plywood, you gotta make sure that it's gonna stand. So we're gonna have to open up this section. There's a crazy crack on the cinder block section there. These are all things that need to be dealt with. Let's go to the outside. I'm gonna show you what it looks like from the outside looking in. If I was Sherlock Holmes, I'd be looking for clues like these. This is some kind of putty crap, probably covering the crack that's coming up from up there. That's a balcony, by the way. And that balcony looks like it's been leaking for a long time. So you're thinking, well, hey, why are we talking about a balcony if we're doing a soft stair retrofit? Because that balcony has probably let water come into the building and rot sections of this wall out. So remember, the retrofit is only gonna work based on the strength of the weakest section. So if this is a weak section and it's inside, it's got termite damage or some other kind of damage, and we don't deal with it, all of the stuff that we do in there is for nothing because it'll break here. So as part of our preliminary demo, before we do the plans, we open up these sections so that we know what the current site conditions are. And this is a critical component of the entire building, this particular corner. So we're gonna open this up. We're gonna open up a little underneath the balcony and get a little peek in there and see what it looks like. As you can see, it's really important that your contractor and engineer look very closely at the structure. You can't just assume that everything is fantastic behind the stucco. You gotta look for clues and be able to determine what sections need to be opened up so you can verify the condition of the site. Well folks, I really hope you enjoyed our walkthrough here in the valley, and I want to know what you guys think. Do you think we did a pretty good job? Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments about what we should have looked at that we didn't look at? I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. Go ahead and post them below. My name's Alex with Software Retrofit Pros, reminding you, you don't need a contractor. You need a team of pros. Hey guys, remember, go to Software Retrofit Pros. It's everything you need to know. Blog articles, videos about software retrofitting and house bolting. Go, right now.